Research analyst at FXTM, Lukman Otunuga, tells us a bit more about the story.
As widely expected, the Central Bank of Nigeria has left interest rates unchanged. This was expected given the fact that the central bank unexpectedly cut interest rates in March. From hearing what the governor had to say, it was a mixture of dovishness and hawkishness. Although he did state that Nigeria is still moving through a fragile recovery, he did express optimism of the nation's potential in 2019.
And he criticized the CBN as it was prioritizing inflation over economic growth and employment. And we heard earlier of the governor talking about headline inflation reaching 11.37% in April 2019, largely caused by food prices. So what are your thoughts on that?
It's quite interesting how inflation has risen back in recent months. My thoughts on this is the fact that I believe inflation may return in a vengeance as we head into Q3 due to cost push and demand pull. We have to keep in mind that, number one, this is farming season in Nigeria, and this may result in possible supply shortages in food, which would lead to cost push inflation. Secondly, the implementation of the minimum wage and the fact that this is Ramadan as well would increase demand pull inflation. So these two things are likely to result in inflationary pressures making a return. But what I would like to see is if inflation is able to moderate by the end of the third quarter of 2019, because naturally rising inflation will impact the Central Bank of Nigeria's pro-growth policy to cut growth in an effort to support the economy, to cut inflation, cut interest rates in an effort to support the economy.
Very good, Lukman. Now, based on what you've just heard, do you think the MPC will change its strategy in the second Buhari tenure, if at all?
But based on what I've heard, I can see there's a possibility of continuity. So what we've seen in the past 5 years, we're going to continue to see in the coming 5 years, with the central bank literally building upon on what's done already. To my knowledge, the ban on the FX or the 43 items, I can see that continuing, because this is something that will continue to support local businesses. What I would like to see is if there's any change in the currency, in the exchange rate, because this is something that foreign investors will be paying very close attention to, because we always speak about transparency, and yes, we cannot deny that what the Central Bank of Nigeria has done with the multiple exchanges has promoted some sort of stability, but foreign investors would like to see Nigeria have a single exchange.
Very good, Lukman. Now, the CBN governor also talked about consumer credit and mortgage lending are one of the challenges in the financial sector, that the Nigerian financial sector isn't keen into that yet, is not tapping into it. So what are your thoughts on that?
This is a very interesting idea. For example, if you look at the United Kingdom, the United States and other major economies in the world, it's through this sector which they derive growth. It will be very good if Nigeria is able to do this, but this goes back to the question of infrastructure. It will take time, and this is something that I'll be paying very close attention to in the medium to longer term.
Indeed, Lukman. Now, the IMF projection of growth is for 2.1%, and CBN talks about 2.8% as it were. So what has changed here? It's still relatively the same thing.
It's still the same thing, and as things play, it seems that Nigeria is on path to achieving that 2.2% growth in 2019, although there's a lot of talk that economic growth during the first quarter has slowed. When we keep in mind that this has actually been the fastest pace of growth in Q1 in 3 years, it's not good, no, it's not bad. For Nigeria to move forward, to continue to secure that growth in which the CBN is aiming for, as I said earlier, we need to see a greater push in diversification and Nigeria actually breaking away from the chains of oil reliance to other.
Lukman Otunuga earlier there on Nigeria's NPR.